We've looked at point guards, we've looked at shooting guards, but now we're ranking the greatest small forwards from every NBA team. We've got a lot of small forwards to get through. They're always one of the most exciting positions to rank, and we're about halfway through ranking every position now, so comment down below if you're enjoying them. Let's not waste any more time though, and let's get into it. In the 30th spot, we have the Wizards with Deni Avdija, who was drafted 9th overall by them this past year, but hasn't really shown any promise so far. Easily takes this Wizards spot though, because they don't really have anyone else at that position. 29, the Magic and James Ennis. Orlando's got a few talented young players at most positions, but small forward isn't one of them because, as we know, Ennis really isn't all that great. 28, the Cavs and Cedi Osman. For some reason, everyone always acted like Osman had a lot of potential, and I just never saw it, but hopefully now it's clear that he's just an average player, which is why he ranks here. 27, the Knicks and Reggie Bullock. Kevin Knox used to take the spot for the Knicks the past couple of years, and he's still on the roster, but I mean barely. He's pretty much fallen out of the rotation because his game has yet to show any major improvements. Bullock, on the other hand, is a pretty solid role player. Then for 26, we have the Rockets and Jayshawn Tate. You probably haven't heard much about the undrafted rookie, but he's having a solid year for Houston. Now as a two-way player, David Nwaba gives Tate a run for his money here, but since the Rockets are so bad, Jayshawn's been given the opportunity as a starter and is making the most of it. The Spurs take 25 for Keldon Johnson, and I mean, nothing too special here. But for 24, we have the Pistons with Sadiq Bey, who's quietly been a big part of this year's Rookie of the Year race, have put together a young roster with a good amount of potential. And Bey's one of them. He might not just yet be better than a few of the guys ahead of him, but he definitely has more potential than they do. 24, the Mavs have Dorian Finney-Smith, who's a solid all-around player, nothing too special, and he usually does play power forward, but with Porzingis and Kleber as Dallas's big men, he's mostly played small forward recently. Then we have Danny Green for the 76ers at 22, and if we're ignoring the shot that he missed in the NBA Finals, most of us can agree that Danny's a very valuable 3-and-D player. I mean, he usually comes up big in the playoffs, and throughout the regular season, he's still a great player for any star to play with. And speaking of team players, there's few as good in that role than Thaddeus Young at 21 for the Bulls. Zach LaVine has said he's one of his favorite teammates and that he wouldn't be able to do what he has without him on the team, and that's big. He's the ultimate teammate and a great all-around player. Another great two-way player is OG Anunoby at 20 for the Raptors. Now he's shown all the talent on defense, it's just his offensive game that needs to do the catching up, and he's still got a long way to go, but in year 4, I like the progress he's made so far. Lou Dort at 19 for OKC is in a similar position because he's easily one of the best one-on-one defenders in the league, and that's been on display multiple times recently in the past year when he's had to guard LeBron and most notably James Harden in last year's playoffs. He's got elite defense already, he's just got to get better on the other end, which he's already done a great job of, doubling his points per game from last year, and he ranks higher than OG because his defense is a step ahead. Then next up, shout out to Mikhail Bridges at 18 for Phoenix, who's one of the unsung heroes of that team, and the future is very bright for him. Given his skill set and the fact that he's only getting better, shows that he's going to have a long career in the league, and a team's always going to want a player like him. And even though Lou Dort's defense is better, he ranks higher because his offensive game is a lot more well-rounded at this point. 17, the Hawks and DeAndre Hunter. Now Hunter's barely played this season due to injuries, but what we did get to see from him so far in year 2 was enough to rank him this high. His offense is there, his defense is there, and if the Hawks were ever going to take things to the next level, he's going to have to be a big piece in that. 16, the Wolves and Malik Beasley. Beasley usually plays shooting guard, but we gave that spot to Anthony Edwards in last video, so he takes small forward here. And he's been a great scorer for Minnesota, but you still gotta think most of that comes from just being on a terrible team. So we don't truly know what he's capable of just yet. 15, the Grizzlies and Dylan Brooks, who is without a doubt one of the better second round picks in the league today and is still underrated. Now Grizzlies fans either love him or hate him. His shot selection and his foul trouble may drive some fans crazy, but there's also no denying that when he gets on a hot streak combined with his non-stop defense, it's impossible to not like this guy, so he deserves to be ranked here and also still has a very bright future. 14, the Kings and Buddy Hield, who drops down a few spots from where he may have ranked in the past because he's not having a great season, and for a guy that had some hype early on, his game's been pretty stagnant recently. But that's the opposite situation for Norman Powell, who takes 13 for the Blazers, because he's broken out these past couple of seasons. He was playing great for the Raptors and now he's still adjusting, but is playing nearly just as good at small forward in Portland. And as a guy that can score and is also one of the best 3-point shooters in the entire NBA, it was no question to rank him this high. 12, the Pacers with Karis LeVert. Now I expected that when Karis got on a new team, he would quickly break out, and it hasn't happened yet, and his game hasn't shown any major improvements so far, but keep a lookout because I still think it's coming. Then we got the Nuggets at 11 with Michael Porter Jr. And MPJ didn't have a great rookie season last year and didn't rank anywhere near this high, but now he's earned a near top 10 ranking. It's still clear that it's only his second season though. I want to see him can be more aggressive, drive to the basket more, and actually become a playmaker. I hope he just doesn't turn out to be a pure scorer. If his game makes the right steps though, he'll be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 small forward in no time. Number 10, the Jazz and Bojan Bogdanovic. I've said it before, I'm a big fan of Bojan's game, and he's definitely underrated. But now we have Andrew Wiggins, who takes the number 9 spot for the Golden State Warriors. And I'm pretty sure this is Wiggins' first time making it in the top 10 of a small forward ranking video. And his defense and shooting brought him here. Steve Kerr's made it a point to make him Golden State's go-to defender this year. And it's worked because we all know the potential's always been there. And his 3-point shooting's made a huge jump too. But I mean, how could it not, being surrounded by 3 of the greatest shooters of all time? Now in the long run, I don't think I ever see him getting too much better than he's been playing this year, but it's good to see him at least finally show some improvement. 8, the Hornets and Gordon Hayward, and it's been great to see the Hornets finally having a good season and looking like they have some good years ahead of them. And Gordon's had a good year. On any other team though, he'd be considered overpaid, but for the Hornets, it was a good deal because that's what they have to do to lure in this type of talent, especially when you've been that bad for that long. Number 7, Chris Middleton for the Bucks. Nothing really new with Middleton. He has been in more of a leadership role on the court, which is great, but besides that, we know why he ranks here. And Brandon Ingram comes in at 6 for the Pelicans, and it's been a rough year for him. He went from thinking he was going to be the Pelicans' superstar franchise player, but now has gotten replaced by Zion in 1 year. But no, sure, Zion has taken the spotlight, but there's no reason these two can't coexist, and I think they will because Ingram's still having a career year. And so is Jaylen Brown at 5 for the Celtics. It took him a while to get to this point. A few years back, I didn't know that he would, but he's gotten better every season and will continue to. It's just up to the Celtics front office now to get himself and Tatum a winning roster, because this one's not it. Number 4, the Heat and Jimmy Butler. It has not been a great season for Miami, but we all still know why Jimmy deserves this number 4 spot, and I'm sure we can imagine how much worse this team would be without him. Of course, we expected them to be better after their finals run, but they weren't good in last year's regular season either. I do gotta say though, Butler's been a terrible 3-point shooter these past 2 years at 23% from 3, shooting only 2 a game. If he would just work on that and get his shot to be a lot better, he would be such a better player. Number 3, the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, and Leonard easily deserves this spot for obvious reasons, but I still couldn't rank him any higher than the 2 players ahead of him, like number 2 and Kevin Durant for the Nets. We're finally getting to see Kevin Durant back in one of these ranking videos after I wasn't able to include him in last year's. Now I get KD's missed a lot of time this season, but when he does play, he's almost the same exact player he was before his injury. So yes, he does rank over Kawhi Leonard. And of course, the number 1 goes to the Lakers and LeBron James, who's also missing a good amount of time right now, but when healthy, no one is still really even close to taking the spot from him. Now we got the power forward rankings coming up next, and they're finally actually pretty interesting this year. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe now so you don't miss out later when I upload that video.